Let's jump right in, guys. Today's explainer is an absolute roller coaster. We're looking at the anatomy of a revenge heist that literally flips the script on everything you think you know about the classic inside man trope. We're going to map out exactly how a grieving father managed to completely dismantle two heavily armed organizations from the inside out. And he does it with nothing but insane patience, brutal efficiency, and honestly, the perfect cover identity.
Okay, so it all kicks off with this incredibly chilling moment. 4 simple words. Leave this to me. This perfectly captures the cold, lethal precision of a Fortico security guard named Patrick Hill. So picture this, right? It's supposed to be just a completely routine cash drop in LA. But suddenly, Hill's trainer and partner, a guy named Bullet, gets taken hostage by robbers. The driver, Dave, is freaking out, completely panicking, which makes total sense. But Hill, the guy doesn't even flinch. He just calmly talks Dave into compliance, steps out of the truck, drops this ice-cold line, and then just executes the entire robbery crew. I mean, the precision is absolutely insane, way out of place for a rookie guard. And get this, before the last robber even dies, Hill gets right in his face and demands to know who they work for.
Which naturally leads us to the exact same question the FBI and all his stunned coworkers were asking. Who in the world is this guy? How does a supposedly green rookie have the elite tactical training to take out an entire heavily armed crew without even breaking a sweat? You know, his colleagues, guys like Bullet and Dave, they already thought he was kind of weird and hard to read. But this takes him from being just the quiet guy in the break room to something out of a horror movie. So the FBI is immediately all over it, trying to figure out how this average Joe just went full one-man army.
Well, what's actually fascinating here is how ordinary Patrick Hill appeared before the shootout. He deliberately flew way under the radar. When he joined Fortico Security, he barely scraped by in his training. He kept completely to himself, zero interest in making work buddies or shooting the breeze. And honestly, it's a brilliant infiltration strategy. By making himself out to be the absolute lowest common denominator, you know, the guy who's just barely hanging on to his job, he guarantees that nobody is going to look twice at him. That is, until the shootout forced his hand.
But man, the mystery drastically deepens here. So the FBI is looking into the shootout, right? And they connect the ballistics to a completely different armored truck robbery from 5 months ago, a really brutal one that left 2 guards and a civilian dead. They bring Hill in, question him, and he totally denies it. But here is the massive twist, the real game changer. The agents take Hill's file up the chain to their boss, Agent King. King takes one look at the profile, realizes this is a guy the Bureau has been hunting for literally decades, and then he tells his agents to back off. Just drop it. Completely inexplicable.
And things just keep getting weirder. Because right after the shootout, instead of being fired for going rogue, the CEO of Fortco actually puts Hill back on active duty. Then, out of nowhere, some unnamed associate hands Hill this incredibly DAC package. We're talking internal employee files, surveillance photos of a coworker named Dana's family, and a heavily redacted autopsy report. I mean, come on, that is definitely not standard issue for a security guard. This is the toolkit of an apex predator getting ready to hunt. And that hunt kicks into high gear during what we'll call the Chinatown incident. A few months later, Hill and Bullet are hit again by robbers. But check this out. The robbers take one look at Hill's face and literally run for their lives in sheer terror. They just bolt. Obviously, his coworkers are now super suspicious. They know he's not just Patrick Hill. This completely forces his hand. So Hill corners his coworker Dana, holds her at gunpoint, and demands answers. See, she's been hoarding a secret stash of cash, claiming she just skimmed it from a liquor store. To make sure she's not lying about where the money came from, Hill pulls out those surveillance photos of her parents. It's a terrifying, crystal clear threat. Okay, so let's quickly look at the timeline here to untangle this whole plot. 5 months ago, we have that first heist and the tragic death of a boy named Dougie. 3 weeks later, someone wakes up in a hospital. And that leads us straight to present day with this intense undercover mission at Fortico. So to really understand what's happening right now, we have to rewind to 5 months ago.
Because the whole illusion just shatters when we find out who Patrick Hill really is. He's actually Mason Hargreaves. Yeah, a massively powerful, notorious crime boss. See, 5 months ago, Hargreaves was actually staking out an armored truck for his own heist, and he left his son, Dougie, waiting in the car. But a completely different crew hijacked the truck first, saw Dougie, and shot him. Hargreaves ran toward the gunfire, watched his own son die, took a bullet himself, and was left for dead. When he finally woke up from a coma 3 weeks later, his wife blamed him and left. So now, he's a grieving father with literally nothing to lose, living under this fake identity solely to hunt down his son's killers.
And that sets up a massive collision between two lethal groups. On one side, you've got Hargreaves' syndicate, highly professional career criminals. Actually, remember those robbers in Chinatown who ran away? That was Hargreaves' own guys. They called off the job the second they recognized him. And on the other side, Jackson's rogue veterans. These are the actual killers, a highly trained, disgruntled military unit led by Sergeant Jackson, featuring guys like Carlos, Sam, Brad, Tom, and a real loose cannon named Yan.
Let's zoom in on that tragic catalyst for a second. Jackson's military crew had crossed the line into armed robbery. They'd done some small jobs, and then they went for the big score, a $6 million armored truck heist. Yep, the exact same truck Hargreaves was watching. But during the hit, that younger veteran, Jan, he just completely lost it. No operational need, no warning, he just opened fire. He shot the guards, he shot young Dougie, and he shot Hargreaves. As Hargreaves was bleeding out on the asphalt, the very last thing he saw before passing out was Jan's face. And you better believe that face was burned into his memory forever.
So how on earth did Hargreaves track her down? Well, it was a brutal, highly systematic process. First, he actually used a list of suspects from FBI agent King, who, remember, agreed to look the other way. Hargreaves' crew basically tortured and eliminated everyone on that list, but hit a dead end. Next, they tried to follow the money, raiding a rival crime family sitting on about $2.5 million. But oops, wrong crew entirely. Finally, one of his guys, Mike, points out the obvious. The real killers had to have inside knowledge of Fortico's routes. That was the light bulb moment. Hargreaves told his syndicate to stand down, created the Patrick Hill persona, and walked right through Fortico's front doors to find the inside man himself. Which brings us back to present day, and honestly, one of the absolute worst miscalculations I have ever seen. Bullet, the guy who trained Hill and was with him during that first shootout, he pulls Hill aside and reveals he is Jackson's inside man. Bullet used to serve under Jackson in the military. Talk about information asymmetry. Bullet is standing there totally thinking he holds all the cards. He needs Hill's help to bypass security for an upcoming mega heist, and he straight up blackmails him to play along. Bullet has literally no clue he is trying to strong-arm a ruthless crime lord who has been hunting him for 5 months. It's crazy.
And the stakes for this upcoming heist, a mind-blowing $150 million. That's enough cash to fill a literal truck. This is Jackson's crew's Black Friday weekend depot heist, the absolute holy grail they've been planning for ages. But here's the thing. For Hargreaves, the $150 million means absolutely nothing. It is completely irrelevant. To him, this giant pile of cash is just the perfect bait. It's the one thing that will finally drag every single one of his son's killers into one confined, locked-down building.
The second Jackson's crew breaches the depot, the Black Friday dominoes just start tumbling. Bullet cuts the camera feeds and violently turns on his own co-workers, murdering Dana and Dave. An alarm accidentally gets tripped, and boom, a massive all-out firefight erupts inside the facility. Amidst all this total chaos, Hargreaves is just methodically stalking through the depot, taking down the robbers one by one. But when the tension is at its absolute peak, Jan shows his true colors yet again. He turns on everyone. He murders Bullet, he murders his own commander, Jackson, grabs the bags of cash, and leaves the rest of them for dead. Jan really thinks he's pulled it off. He thinks he's getting away scot-free. But Hargreaves is playing 4D chess here. Before the robbery even kicked off, Hargreaves secretly slipped a trackable cell phone deep inside one of the main money bags. So all he has to do is pull up the GPS and track Jan right to his hideout. And this is where it gets incredibly dark. Remember that heavily redacted autopsy report? Hargreaves pulls it out. He corners Jan and methodically shoots him, mirroring every single fatal wound his son Dougie suffered. He literally recreates the autopsy report on Jan. And, well, Jan doesn't survive it. The real motivation behind all of this becomes crystal clear in the aftermath. Hargreaves is standing there, right? He's looking at $150 million in untraceable cash. And he just leaves it, every last cent. He doesn't touch it. Instead, he picks up a phone, dials FBI agent King, tells him it's done, and waits for a black car to whisk him away. This entire massive operation, it was never, ever about the money. It was about settling a profoundly personal, deeply painful score. So we've walked through the anatomy of this insane heist, right from the quiet infiltration all the way to this incredibly bloody climax. Hargreaves definitely got his revenge. But I want you to really think about the cost here. Did perfectly mirroring his son's autopsy actually bring this crime lord any peace? Or did it just leave a colossal trail of destruction, ruined lives, and collateral damage? It really feels like a hollow victory. One that forces us to ask if vengeance can ever actually heal a broken man. Well, that wraps up today's explainer.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into such a brilliant but brutally dark strategy. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hello Hollywood movies story lovers, please thank you for watching for video, and please subscribe and support for me. Hey YouTube, not is mass content, is my content. I am activity short activities and long movies stories. Thank you for guys watching for movie stories.